All right, well, welcome back to the podcast. Gabe, Giannis, and I, we are on for our weekly episode. We call these the duo episodes. Gabe, I am in Winona, Minnesota. Have you ever been to Minnesota before?
Yes, Granite Games. Remember Granite Games? I was like a week. This is a funny story, actually. Do you remember? I was like a week into being hired.
Oh,
So we hadn't
no,
even. I don't know. Had we met? I don't think we.
No,
had
that
met.
was the first time. That was the first time we met. Was in Granite
That's
Games.
so funny. Yeah, I literally just remembered you right now when you asked me that question. So I get hired, and you were in Italy when I was interviewing for the position. What were you doing in Italy? But you were in Italy. You weren't even around.
We were. I think we were celebrating Ava finishing her.
Oh, that's
leukemia
right.
treatment.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. So yeah, long story short, how I got to working with Jason and NC Fit at the time, saw a video, Jason selfie like he always does on Instagram. And I was at a point in my other job where like it was fine. It was good, but I didn't have like the connection or the fire anymore, just because like the whole team that I worked with in California had all moved to Denmark. So as like the only US guy, I was going into an office every day with just like me and the office manager. And it like was just getting kind of repetitive. So I saw the video and I like took a chance and interviewed. And I remember I interviewed with Matt and MDV at the Mountain View location. And then I got on a phone call with you when you were in Italy. And then, yeah, I got hired. But the funny thing is we had never met in person. And then like in the interview process, I had told Matt and MDV, I was like, yeah, I'll start, but I have this trip because me and my buddies qualified for the Granite Games that like, I'm committed to. So I show up and I remember you looked at me and you were like, didn't you just start? Like, why aren't you at LDAC?
That's
It's pretty
right.
funny.
Dude, you know what's funny about that event? So at the time, I had just released the book As Many Reps as Possible, and so that was the reason why the Granite Games.
You gave like the keynote for the athletes, right?
Yeah, it just really sticks out to me. That was by far the hardest presentation I've ever given, by far. And the reason for it is that we gave out like, I want to say they bought like 5,000 books or whatever it was. It was a lot of books, and I gave the keynote. But basically all these athletes came and got briefed on like what the event was for the day and blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, all right, Jay, now you're up. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, all these athletes, they just got a bunch of information. They're trying to like go and like discuss like, hey, what's the plan? What are we going to go do? How are we going to attack the day? And so as I'm talking, I'm in this giant arena with, I don't even know, thousands and thousands of people, and people start moving. And it was so distracting for me because I was trying to.
It was a rough setup.
It was rough, right? That one stands out to me as probably one of the most difficult locations I've ever given a speech at, because you just weren't set up for success. Like all these people just got information about the event, and now they're like, all right, well, I'm gonna go talk to my team and go figure out how to attack this. I don't want to listen to Jason talk about mindset,
You were not set up for success, especially for like the topic you were going to talk about. Like it would have even been different if you were like going to go up there and talk about like, how to make the most of the competition or like a couple of tips or whatever. This was going to be something completely out of left field. And I remember because I was there, you get briefed on what the events are going to be. You learn some things that you like didn't know before, the weight of this, the rep scheme of that. So immediately anyone that's competed, what's the first thing you want to do after that? You're like, dude, what are we going to do? Like, what are you going to do? What is this going to do? And instead you're like, sitting there trying to like half pay attention, and the audio was terrible because it was such a big space. I can tell you from someone that was sitting up there, you couldn't even like really understand what you were saying. It was rough. It wasn't good.
No, that was
not because of you, obviously. It was poorly planned. But yeah, that's when we first met.
Out of all the presentations I've ever given, that one was by far the hardest because, I mean, it was a giant arena, right? And so many people, but everybody was moving, and so you losing focus. But anyways, I'm in a place called Winona, Minnesota. We have family out here, and we've been out here a few times. It's much different out here than it is in California. And this morning I hosted a men's club, but yesterday I got super sick. I don't know what it was. It was travel, or I've also been kind of like running myself down by doing a lot of like, I've been going pretty hard the last like couple weeks. And I think that my body is like caught up with me. I've been waking up super early. I've been traveling a lot. I've been training really hard. And I think just added up. And so I was down for the count, and sure enough, dude, my alarm goes off at 5 a.m. this morning, and I'm like, oh, like the last thing I want to do is go and host this men's club. But people came from all over, and like I had a responsibility to them, and I had a responsibility to myself. And sure enough, dude, I get there, we find this beautiful location, it's incredible, and then once the workout was done, like I felt like $1,000,000. It just required me to kind of break through that barrier of like, hey, it's early. I slept terrible. I feel terrible, but now I feel way better. So this morning's men's club in Winona, it wasn't a huge group. It was probably about 15 of us. But to have that many people show up in like the middle of like Winona is not a big place at all. And so to have guys come from like an hour and a half away was pretty cool.
Are you close to the big cities? Are you close to
2 hours.
Minneapolis?
So we're 2 hours away from Minneapolis. So you fly in Minneapolis and you drive 2 hours. But it's a testament to just the mission that we're on, right? Like I'm on a mission to connect guys through fitness, and it doesn't matter how I'm feeling. Like I have a bigger mission. And so this morning was just a really good reminder of that. And the workout we did, by the way, like all body weight, it was inspired by flex a little bit with Bulgarian split squats and tempo body weight. You could get a great workout, man, body weight with 45 minutes, the group of guys. Then we grabbed coffee. It was just perfect way to start the day. And now I get to talk to you, so now it's even better.
Dude, that's one thing that like a lot of people I think forget. We're in the middle of summer, and I know a lot of people are traveling. A lot of people's like workout routines are getting thrown out of whack because you don't have access to the equipment, to the space that maybe you usually do. But man, like it's just a really good reminder. Your body just requires movement. You're going to feel better after some movement. And, one big thing that, I'm thinking a lot about now, and, we sent out an email this morning is just simplicity is so important. And people overcomplicate nutrition and fitness to the extreme. And also, like even taking a bigger step back, like obviously you and me, we want to move a little bit to start the day because that makes our day feel better. But like, even if you're like traveling for a week, even if you're traveling for 2 weeks and you decide for that week and 2 weeks to not work out, to just, enjoy it for what it is and wait until you get back, that's like also not the end of the world. And I think that that's important too. Like the bad thing is for that to then become, well, I'm going to wait until summer's over. And then, well, it's busy. The kids are going back to school. I'm going to wait till this, wait till that. Then the holidays. The next thing you know, you haven't, actually picked it back up until the beginning of the year. But I also think that like, especially because most people, when they travel, you end up walking a lot. Like if you're doing a lot of walking, like for me, that checks off the box of like, I moved today. Usually when you go on vacation, when you're traveling, you're not like literally sitting down all day. So I think that, especially with people, I think in our audience and listening, I think that there's this almost like unnecessary pressure too, to like get a workout in if that's going to take away from like the day that you had planned or whatever. I would do it because it would make me feel better. But I think that, it's not necessary for anything that you want to do to actually do something every single day while you're away for a week, 2 weeks max.
Yeah, especially like if you're traveling to like a big city, like Ash and I, whenever we're in cities, we always want to walk around because I just think the vantage point is so much different when you're walking. So we'll go and we'll walk 10, 15 miles. Now with the kids, a little bit different. They'll complain for sure. But like when Ashley and I are together, like we just go and we just walk for extended periods of time. And we really enjoy that. Like in Manhattan, for example, the next time we're in New York, which we don't go to New York very often, but like, or Europe or any of these places, like just walking, you get in so much exercise. Like, we talked about DC in the last episode. One of the things that I'm having him do on a regular basis, especially if you like to golf, is just switching out the cart for a walk is just night and day. You get so much more movement in just by getting in those steps. So yeah, definitely something you could do. But this morning's men's club was solid. And I'm really appreciative for everybody who always shows up to these things. It doesn't go unnoticed. So yeah, that's the mission.
I love it, man. Here's an interesting story that I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and it got me thinking about a lot of things, and I think you'll appreciate it. So David Roche is an ultramarathoner. I've talked about him on the podcast before, more from like a fascination with how he's completely taken like long distance running training and kind of flipped it on its head. For a long time, training for ultramarathon, so anything longer than a marathon, has always just been about like just how much time can you go out and be on your feet super slow. Like that's how these guys train. They're like going out, they're doing like 100-mile weeks, running a marathon a day. It's just about time on your feet and doing it super slow. And he came in and has approached it in reverse, in that he's actually doing a lot of speed work, a lot of shorter stuff. Obviously, he's still running a lot relative to how the average person, how much you and me run, but he's not anywhere near doing these crazy, crazy volume weeks. So he gained a lot of popularity through that. He broke the course record at the Leadville 100, which is a very, very tough 100-mile course in Colorado. He then also won the Javelina 100. I think that's also a 100-mile race. What makes that race unique is that it's in like incredibly, incredibly hot temperature. So he's been doing a lot of training around like heat training specifically. He talks about that. So going into the Western states, which is both a very hot course and a very hilly course, the elevation gain there is crazy. He was obviously one of the favorites, and he's been like sponsored by the feed. There's been like this whole YouTube series about him prepping for it. So there was a lot of, kind of expectation for him to do really well. And he started strong, but ended up DNFing around mile 60.
So it's a
And
100-mile race,
Mhm.
and with high levels of elevation and hot.
Yes.
What state was
Yeah.
it in?
I'm not even sure, to be honest. I'm sure maybe
But
Liz
somewhere
can
on the
look it
West
up.
Coast. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And these guys, like the winning times are in like the 15 hour marks. So these guys are like hauling for like 14, 15 hours. They have like these pit stops where they come in, but it's crazy. It's like a NASCAR pit stop. Like they have all these people around them that like replace their shirt, like put ice on them. Let's see, where is it?
Western states.
100-mile endurance race, the world oldest 100-mile race. It's in
Olympic
Auburn,
Valley.
California, Olympic Valley. Well, it starts in one place and ends in another. That's how long it is.
Wait, hang
Do you know
on.
where that is?
Yeah, I've heard of the area. Wait, so just real quick, these guys are going for 14, 15 hours basically nonstop at like a pretty good clip. Is that right?
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah. With all this elevation gain. Like if you ever watch a video of their quote unquote pit stops, they run in, they'll have someone like take their shirt off and put a different shirt on. They usually like empty their shorts of like all the like empty gels and like empty bottles. They get that filled back in. Someone will pour like ice water on their back. They like might quickly like change their sock or something if their like feet are pretty beat up, and then they're like right off and running again. Like it's super quick. It's like 2 minutes.
Yeah, almost like a tri station. Almost like
Yeah. Mhm.
wow. Okay.
It's got to be super quick. But the really interesting part, and the part I wanted to talk to you about, is so he has this podcast sharing kind of like the experience and what happened. And he goes into this really tough hill in mile 60, and how like never before he just started having all these like, now thinking about it, irrational thoughts that like he was going to get rhabdo, that he was going to die, all these things. And the unique thing is that he's a dad now. So he's a dad to like a brand new baby boy. I think he's like a year old. So he's like in this new season of life. And it ties into what we were talking about last time we recorded.
Yeah, the risk
Of like this whole, yeah. And he was talking about this whole like, you know, before these thoughts never used to even come into my head, but now, it's a completely different ball game. And either way, he ended up being 100% fine. And even the doctor that looked at him after after he DNF'd, he was like nowhere near anything bad happening. But he like in his podcast, and I recommend it for anyone that wants to like listen to, because he was pretty raw about the moment and like pretty emotional, honestly, because you can imagine all the buildup around this one event and just like, DNFing, like not even, being able to finish the race and feeling like it happened because of like this mental failure more than even like a physical failure, like just not being able to like go into this pain cave that before he was like very open to going. But then the interesting part is like how much of that becomes inevitable once you become a parent and a father. And it's just like for you, like how different is it now? I know that you're not like super competitive anymore, but like I'm sure that it's so different now. Well, maybe it's different for you, but I'm curious your thoughts, because you always had kids even when you were competing at the highest level. But it was just a really interesting example of exactly what we were talking about last time we recorded, of just how everything changes even for like, these absolutely top athletes.
Yeah, I mean the your risk tolerance starts to drop, right? Um, like for example, I'm doing Jiu-Jitsu Master Worlds. There's definitely some risk associated with that in terms of getting injured. But I don't feel like it's dramatically more than the risk that I would get just being in the jiu-jitsu gym and training hard. I don't feel like it's dramatically more. I don't feel like I'm intentionally placing myself at any additional risk, right? Um, Obviously the competitors are gonna go a little bit harder, blah, blah, but it's not like crazy. But if you go back to the CrossFit Games, right? Um, I mean, dude, like it's really crazy to think about. But in 2010, I was on that microwave mountain at Camp Pendleton, and like, dude, it was rough. It was so rough. And I didn't have kids at the time because my daughter was born in 2011. And I don't know. I guess even after having kids, come to think of it, with CrossFit, I never really looked at it as like, I don't know. Because in 2009, I blacked out. In 2010 or 11, 10, I think was the Microwave Mountain. And that was a really, really difficult course. I don't know if I had had kids at the time that I had blacked out, if that would have changed my perspective. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always tough to say. Would kids aside, whether that plays into it or not, do you think there's any circumstance you would be put in now that isn't like life or death, that's just like competition, that you could even get to a place like that now? Like literally like blacking out,
Mm,
absolute tapping out, like the physical capability you have?
no, the only thing would be if I committed to some like gnarly swim, right? Like, and I would have to know that going into it. Like, I would have to know, like, for example, swimming from Alcatraz to it, like sounds kind of like appealing to me, but I would have to know that if I go and do that, I would need some type of like buddy system or something. Like, because a friend of mine just did the triathlon uh coming out of Alcatraz. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
famous one.
It's a really cool
And
race. Yeah.
he was saying, dude, like he was telling us like bro, swimmers they get like lost. They have to get like because the currents get gnarly. And I don't think I would put myself in that position. I would need to have some type of safety mechanism there. I just it's not worth it to me, you know? But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna stick to jiu-jitsu, the tactical games, that kind of stuff. But I am interested one day in doing some type of like swim, and that one I would have to like, especially after what happened with Lazar, man. It really that did open my eyes a lot, because like I've been in some gnarly swimming events, the CrossFit Games, but I never really put myself in thinking I was gonna die. I thought I was just like gonna, have to lay on my back and recover or whatever it is. But after Lazar, I mean, that really changed my perspective on what could happen at a swim event, when you're pushing yourself that hard, for sure.
Dude. And uh, I remember that something had happened when you mentioned the Alcatraz triathlon. So I looked it up really quick. But this last year, or this year, the 2025, did your buddy race this year?
Yeah, he just did. Yeah.
Did he tell you about how there was all this controversy around how crazy the swim start was? It was really dangerous because they take you out on a ferry and you jump in from the ferry and start swimming. There was one athlete that was immediately paralyzed because someone fell
What?
on top of him.
No way.
Yeah. There were two serious injuries. One athlete became paralyzed after being landed on by another participant because it was so chaotic, everyone jumping in from the ferry at the same time. Really sad, man.
Dude, no, but this guy was telling me that like so he's done it 7 times and I was fascinated. I was really enjoying my conversation with him. He's actually a
Yeah,
spinal.
that's how, yeah, they jump in from the ferry just like that. Yeah. And this, I can tell, this is like definitely the pro start. So that's why it's such a small group because they always let the professionals go in first. Then you can imagine everyone else that's waiting around is
Just
just like
jumps
the
in.
age group start. And if they're not, ushering them in one small group at a time, you can easily see how this can get super sketchy. It's a pretty big jump too.
But do you think they jump off the second story or just that first
No, no,
story?
no, probably not.
No.
Probably there, but I mean, it's still a pretty big jump.
Well, no, but this guy was telling me, I said, "Hey, do you go with the buoy? Do you do anything?" He's like, "No, I mean, you saw those guys, right? Yeah, they have a colorful head cap on." But he said
That's
there's
it.
been
Yeah.
times he goes every year, like dozens of people are picked up out of the water because they miss like this. I
Mhm.
guess they miss this one area, and if you miss it, you're instantly pulled out to the Golden Gate instantly. Like the current just takes you and you're done. You're cooked. And that to me sounds frightening because
No, thank
like
you.
I mean, you're just no thank you. Not for like but teach his own, right? But yeah.
We could do the Trans Tahoe swim. That's always
What's
been
the
like I think I've told you that. That's been on my bucket list for I mean it's on my bucket list since I
is
haven't done
that
it
from
yet.
one side of the lake to the other?
Yeah, it's like the full width of it. But you can also do it as different relay teams. They do it once a year. But what makes it hard is that you're at elevation, and even in the middle of the summer, the middle of the lake is pretty cold.
Yeah. Huh. That'd be cool. I mean, dude,
So
yeah,
there's like a
yeah.
temperature and a elevation component to it.
Well, because you're doing a 70.
Yeah, I signed up for the half Ironman here in Waco. So Waco's like 2 hours from us. It's like halfway up to Dallas. Yeah, no, I'm excited, man.
So you signed up for a half marathon. I mean, excuse me,
Half
a half
Ironman.
triathlon, half Ironman. So what is like a good finishing time of a half Ironman?
Minimum, I want to go sub 5 hours. I think I can maybe flirt with a 4:30 if I have like the perfect race. That would be good. A 4:30 would be like really, really good.
Huh. All right. Well, you have to keep me posted. I've been talking to some of the jiu-jitsu coaches about this Master Worlds. And so you got your thing coming up. I got my thing coming up.
When is it again?
Mine's the end of August.
It's pretty soon.
Yeah. I gotta
So
lock in.
what's so tell me, before you signed up, what's training look like? Now that you've signed up, what does training look like?
So
Both from
I
like
haven't officially paid, but I've made my mind up. I got it.
then you haven't made your mind up. Dude, you don't make your mind up until you get the confirmation email. That's what I told myself. And then that's why I literally signed up. What, yesterday? Yesterday. I was like, dude,
Oh,
once the money's spent, that's when you're confirmed. Because right now, something comes up,
yeah.
whatever. You haven't paid yet, dude. Next thing you know, you don't do it. After this podcast, you have to go and sign up.
Here's the reason why I'm like, my only gripe on Master Worlds is that it's 5-minute rounds. That's my only gripe. Is that
What's the
it,
gripe? Is it too long,
my
too
gripe
short?
was, dude, last time I competed in it, I get through my first round, second round, I get to this guy, and me and this dude just like go crazy for 5 minutes, and the referee, it was a draw, and the
I
referee gave it to
remember.
him. And it was just so frustrating because, I mean, obviously I should have done better, but now I'm going to be working with Macy and my other coaches. I'm going to try and figure out a game plan that, hey, if after 2 minutes I can't
What's
take this guy down,
so the gripe is it's too short.
the gripe is it's too short for and I understand why they do this, because you're having thousands of athletes go, or whatever, hundreds or whatever it is, and if each match was 6 minutes or 10 minutes, and the older you get, the shorter it gets, because they figure you're not in as good shape, right? I
What
mean,
age? What is it? 5-year age groups?
yeah, so it goes Master 1, Master 2, Master 3, Master 4. I think after this year, so my birthday's in October, and I think I'll then be in Master 3. But this time I'll be in Master 2, because I think it's 35 to 40 or whatever it is. Um, but it all goes down to having a game plan. So I'll share it here on the show, but it's just like, what is the game plan? How do you stand up for 2 minutes, go for a few attacks, and then if you don't get that, what's your plan B? What's your plan C? I think when I've gone in the past, I'm just like, I'm gonna take this dude down. Well, if that dude has the same mentality, and if he's pretty legit, you're not gonna be able to get him down. So you don't want to lose just you two just like roughing each other up for 5 minutes. That's not what I want to do. So that's my plan for this year.
So assuming you sign up today, let's just say,
Yeah, yeah.
what changes in terms of like how much
Well,
time and also the intensity of you rolling versus afterwards, or does it change?
dude, I mean, it's a really good question. I think the problem is I have a decent amount of travel lined up. I do need to get some jiu-jitsu in with, I need to train with the comp team over at Courtyard so I could really go over my game plan. I don't think I'm necessarily going to get better at jiu-jitsu over the next, 2 months or whatever it is, but I will get better at my game plan for jiu-jitsu. So like, I'm going to come out, I'm going to grab a lapel, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to just rehearse it, rehearse it, rehearse it. And then if this person does this, then I'm going to do this. And basically, I just want to have the same game plan for every person I fight. because I'll probably have about 50 people in my bracket. So to win, you got to have at least 10 fights. I mean, it's a long day. So we'll see.
Does that
We'll see.
require you to change anything from like a conditioning perspective, or are you now, you think, as conditioned as you need to be for, excuse me, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't think there's
Yeah.
any
The strength,
any room there?
like it'll be nominal, right? Like my strength and conditioning is so good right now that the amount of time I would spend doing additional fitness, I should be spending working with my coach, going over
Mm,
all the fundamentals, right? And
got it.
drilling. Yeah, I don't think people realize unless you're, really involved in these sports, just how important it is just to drill. And just watching how it needs to just become second nature, so that when something happens, it's just boom, you're reacting before your body even can tell itself. And so that's what I'm gonna be focused on over the next couple of months.
Do you think that for the guys specifically in your category, because you said like there's 50 people in the bracket, right? So
Yeah, I
means that
think
you,
right now it's like 25, but by the time, it will be about 50.
assuming that you have to, get after it, let's say 6 to 8 times. Do you think that you have like a significant advantage come that seventh, eighth time just because they're more beat up than you are?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, every minute that goes by, every round that goes by, I get a bigger advantage, right? I have to just earn that, So like the first match is gonna be pretty even. But then after someone goes through 2, 3, 4 matches, when they're getting tired, I'm not gonna get tired the same way, right? So I can make up for some of my lack of maybe technique or whatever by having the strength conditioning. So that's the plan, man. And then, dude, I'm gonna be following TH daily. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna follow TH daily on a regular basis, which I have been, and I'm gonna add in some additional runs on the recovery days to get ready for HYROX in December. And I think that alone should put me in a really good position to be able to do it with Ashley. I don't think I need any more than that.
No, you just want to be comfortable out there for sure. By the way, I don't know if you saw, they like announced
Dallas opened.
Dallas is open, and I clicked on the link and it sends you to a "You're now in line" page. We're
No.
experiencing a high volume of traffic right now and using a queue to ensure the best experience possible. And there are 8,229 people in front of me in line when I looked. They have one of those pages for like high volume stuff. I mean, I looked at the page because the coach that I'm working with for like endurance stuff gets like early access. So I had early access, and at least when I looked through the early access, the pro individual was already sold out for men.
Done. Sold out.
I think done for the pre-sale. I'm sure they have a certain amount that is for sale. Oh, look, only 1,000 in line now. I wonder how many things are going to be open, but yeah,
Wait,
it's
whose
crazy how
line?
popular it's gotten, man.
Was that you or is that Liz's now in
No,
10
that was
minutes?
probably Liz. That was probably Liz who clicked on the email. But
Wow.
yeah, man,
I
it's
mean,
crazy how
dude,
it's popular. And they're
look
doing
how
Friday,
fast
Saturday,
HYROX,
Sunday.
dude, look how fast that thing has grown.
Yeah,
And
dude.
so, yeah, I talked to the team over at HYROX and they're gonna work it out where, Ash and I are gonna be able to get a spot because I think we're gonna have a couple of couples that are doing it too. And but yeah, dude, just look at the explosion there. It's a really good testament from a business case on how, like, why has that seen such dramatic increase? And then I mean, I would say the CrossFit season has actually seen a dip, and I don't think I think they actually both could have been on the rise together had some things been just a little bit different. But dude, the sport of HYROX is absolutely crushing it right now.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, people enjoy like training, but they also enjoy running. Running's having a huge resurgence. Like the amount of people that are signing up for just like running events, and even triathlons are having a huge resurgence. Like all this stuff is getting super popular again. I do think that a little bit too is kind of like the pendulum swinging in the other direction from a lot of races and stuff that got canceled through COVID. I think we're seeing that now. Like so many people just kind of like, you know, because there weren't any races, because it was a weird time, kind of like stopped signing up for events and doing this stuff around, you know, 2020, obviously, but even like 21, 22. And I think now everyone's like itching to like get out there and do stuff. And these events are growing. There's also just like the resurgence of like, the quote unquote hybrid athlete. Like it's in vogue to go out and run and do these things. So, but it's cool. I mean, I'm, super bought in. So I enjoy seeing so many people getting into it, and I enjoy that type of training and competition myself. So it's cool to see it grow.
Dude, yeah, it's crazy. We gotta stay up to date on that. Tell me about this book you were talking about
Yeah,
because
man.
yeah, that was
I think you'll find this pretty interesting. So I've been reading this book. I know we have the book for the book club as well, but I started this one before, and it's really good, man. So it's called Fathered by God. I can't remember the author. Maybe Liz can look it up. It
how'd you
was
get referred to it?
recommended. Yeah, it was recommended to me by just someone on social media. Posted it, said it's a really good read. So I checked it out because I, love all these things about like, masculinity and raising sons. And I, especially like, with getting into faith a little bit, I thought it had a cool angle of just how maybe biblically you can look at masculinity and like all these stages. But I think he does a really good job of, there it is, Fathered by God by John Eldridge. Really good book. Highly recommended. I'm almost done. But it goes through these stages, of manhood. So it's the boy stage, the cowboy stage, the warrior, the lover, the king, and the sage. And the whole book goes through each one kind of in detail and pinpoints the fact that like every stage for us as men, and I particularly like reading these things, looking at like how I can help Shay as much as I can. There's very specific lessons that are learned in those stages. And a lot of the problems that we see with men today happen and can be very specifically pinpointed because certain stages have been missed and they haven't learned the lessons that they haven't to learn there. So super high level. When you're a boy, you just need to like play and also just like feel loved. You have to feel loved for being you, for who you are. And as a dad to a son, like that's your job when they're super early on, is like just make them know that they are perfect and okay the way that they are. And that's kind of like that stage. The cowboy stage is where they should be like playing and taking risks. And that's where like, being a helicopter parent or like just not letting kids go out there and take any risks, like kind of devoids them of that stage specifically because you learn so much with just unstructured exploration and risk taking. The warrior stage is really interesting. And this is the one that he makes the biggest argument is missing with a lot of men as they grow up. And in the warrior stage, you're supposed to like pick a noble battle to fight, something that you're like going out and, you're conquering the dragon, you're defeating the thing, you're going out and like taking a challenge. And we don't do that in many ways now. And this kind of ties into a lot of what we do with the Train Hard men's club and everything, because there's this stage for a lot of men where you just like, you miss that. And then the problem is if you miss that, we become quote unquote kings when you're supposed to be leading either your family or being a leader at work. But if you didn't learn the strength, the discipline, the purpose that you really learned during the warrior stage, you don't have those and you're an ineffective leader. And that's where men have to go back and almost relearn those lessons because it's so important. And then like the warrior and lover stage happen in parallel because at the same time where you're supposed to learn strength and discipline and like go and like, defeat the challenge or whatever, you also have to learn how to like be empathetic and how to love and how to do these things. Like they have to happen almost at the same time. One is just as important as the other. And then obviously the king is when you're like the leader of whether it's your household or your community or whatever. And it's because of all the lessons you've learned before that you could be an effective leader. And then if you do that well, you can become a sage, which is the older adult that can then, counsel and pass on advice and be a mentor to guys and men in all these other stages by passing on lessons. And that's an important part too, right? Like we're not supposed to do any of this alone. Whether you do that because you have an incredible dad in your life that can teach you those lessons, or, it's father figures, because that's another thing that he's really big on. And this is where the religious side of it comes in, because you can have God and religion be that father figure for you, especially if you're someone that just hasn't had it in your life, whether it is through the dad that you had or through the community. You can always, if all that is missing, you can lean on God to be that father figure, because all of these lessons are outlined in the Bible and in faith and all that. So I love how he broke down not only the evolution, but he also goes through like very specifically like as a dad, how you can make sure that you're supporting your son to learn the lessons that he should be learning in every single stage. So yeah, man, good book. And I just love how like the evolution of that just made so much sense to me. And like, I'll give you one more example and I'm curious your thoughts. He also brings in like real life examples that you can think about, like The Lion King. Like in The Lion King, you know, Simba goes from like boy and then he's the cowboy. He's like adventure and having fun, but he never goes through the warrior stage. And because he never goes through the warrior stage, because he's with Timon and Pumbaa, like Hakuna Matata, they're just like living like, you know, no care in the world. When he meets Nala, when he meets, you know, who's supposed to be his wife, his lover, she kind of gets like she dismisses him because he won't take the responsibility. So he has to be the warrior and go back and defeat Scar before he can be the king. So it's
Uh,
also cool how it has like these stories in real life that like anyone could recognize. And he just like ties it to these stages, and that's also like an interesting way to learn the lessons that he's trying to teach, because you know most people can recognize the story of Lion King. So it's a
yeah.
cool book.
Dude, that's really cool. I like that. I have to go check that out. I mean, I agree. What did someone say to me today? By the way, we were having an in-depth conversation about AI this morning with the men's club, and pretty much everybody agrees, dude. I mean, bro, if you want the a solid business in the future, I think starting your own plumbing business is going to be like an incredible opportunity. Like any of the
Yeah, I
trades we've
can't do
talked
no
about,
plumbing.
AI cannot do no plumbing. Um, but no, we were having a conversation about how, men need like a reason to get together, whereas women just get together. And we were just having that conversation about like having like something like there's something they're doing, right? And in this case it was coming together for a men's club and then grabbing coffee after. It wouldn't, rarely do I find guys, it happens, I mean, I do it every now and then, but like I rarely say, hey, do you want to go grab lunch together? It's typically like,
Mm.
hey, do you want to go do something together, typically. And it kind of goes back into what you were talking about, where it's like having purpose, having fulfillment, like having a mission. That's one of the reasons why I like the men's club so much, and I love what we're doing at Train Hard so much, is because you can feel mission focused, mission oriented. I mean, I get messages every day. I mean, dude, many a day from people who say that they're getting impacted by what is happening, and it's like that makes me feel like we're on the right path. I got a message from so I got one of my friends, or someone I connect with online. His wife sent me a message like, "Hey, I've been using your app, and my husband doesn't even know I'm sending you this message, but I was compelled to tell you that I've used his app. Like I'm using it on his phone, and him and I do your workouts every day, and I'm down 15 pounds, and it has literally changed my life. I just wanted to send you a message to say thank you." And I was like, dude, that is awesome, right? It's not just for men. We focus on guys, but dude, the women are also getting impacted. So it's stuff like that that makes me feel like we're on the right path, in that because we have a mission, and the mission is bigger than me, it's bigger than you, it's bigger than anybody. The mission is for all of us to be better versions, right? And anyways, back to what you're talking about, so yeah,
It's like one of the most important
everybody
things,
needs that.
man.
Everybody needs it.
Is like having, yeah, having a noble cause that you're fighting
A
for
noble
is
cause.
like like that's what, if you were to boil down the initiation point of going from boy to man, like that's what it is. It's like, you know, and that's the thing that he brings up is like in many like old traditions and cultures, there was like an actual initiation something, right? Like the boy would have to go out and hunt the thing, or have to go out and spend, you know, a week alone, and or there are these like crazy rituals that used to happen, but I feel like they were obviously there for a reason. Like and I'm not saying we need to do that now, but the problem is with that missing in like our culture, we need to find what that is going to be replaced by. And the problem is that there are a lot of, you know, fake, you know, adventures that boys are going on, whether that's, you know, video games, whether that's porn, whether that's, you know, in investing, whether that's, you know, going out and like doing these gambling or day trading. Like a lot of this has been also pointed as like this thing that gives men this like, oh, like you're doing something, but you're really out there gambling. Um, that's one example of just kind of how this need to go out there and master something also makes men vulnerable to the wrong things versus picking something that's actually like a noble cause and doing that, you know?
Dude, I think I told you about that time we were in Africa. It's like a year ago or 2 years ago. And the guy was telling me that basically when the boy turns, I want to say it was like 15 or 16, like old, he gets circumcised at that point. And I don't know if I ever told you this, but he was
No.
telling me the story. So the way he described it was hilarious because this guy was very charismatic. He goes, they take you in this room and there's 3 or 4 elders. These are like the elders. And if you want to become a man, you have to like you get circumcised right there. And you cannot make any facial expression. You cannot say a word. If you make any facial expression or say any type of word, you are not a man. And you basically like they kick you out of like basically the tribe like finds out like, oh, you're not that guy, right? So basically they prepare so when they're 16 and they get circumcised, they hold a stern face and they get circumcised. But that's just the first thing that comes to mind when you talk about like a rite of passage. He also said they went out and they like did some crazy hunts and that kind of stuff. But anyways,
Dude. Yeah, I mean, we definitely don't need to be doing any of that stuff again, but it's just like the underlying, you have to do something incredibly, incredibly hard and come out of the other side, I think is true and 100% necessary.
yeah.
And it's missing in
Well,
many ways. And I think that, you know, fitness offers such an amazing real world, real life, and also just like there's so many other benefits to it, you know?
dude,
Like there's so much more that you can get out of it. Plus, you're going through this like very important initiation of like, hey, you have to do hard things and come out the other side stronger. I think it's so important.
yeah. And then of course sports. Caden, so Caden's been on a travel baseball team, and there's 2 of them. There's orange and there's black, and the black is the better team, and the orange was still a really good team. But the black was like just a little bit of step above. So he just did tryouts, and so he got bumped up to black, which is cool. And so now we're going to be all in on 12U travel ball. So for all you baseball dads out there, you guys know exactly what's happening in the next couple of months. It's going to be nonstop baseball. That's what's going to happen. So it's exciting though, man. It's fun to watch these young boys really develop. I'm at a point now where I've known these boys now for years, and I'm able to watch these young boys turn into young men. It's very, very rewarding for me. And they're going to start coming over to the house and they're going to start training with me in terms of
Hell
weight
yeah.
training. And I just get to watch that journey, you know? It's something I don't take for granted because,
For
and they want to
sure.
come over to the house and they want to get weight training with me, which is super cool. Yeah. Anyways, it's a cool season that we're in, and I don't know how long it's going to last. So for every moment, I'm trying to enjoy it as much as possible.
Dude, every season is temporary and you just have to not stress about the fact that it's temporary, but make the most of while it's here. Today, dude, today. I don't enjoy this as much as Ariel does because she's mom. But today, you know, we take turns working out in the morning. And usually I put Charlie down for a nap, our daughter down for a nap, and she'll sleep on my chest. And that in itself is like just an amazing feeling. But like Shay is still like a little, you know, he's the boy. Like he's not, you know, super mushy with me. He's very mushy with mom. But he came and they were both sleeping on me. Well, he wasn't sleeping. He was just laying down. We had the TV on. And like that was the perfect example of like, dude, that moment is not gonna last, you know?
No,
Like even from them like physically being able to fit on me isn't gonna last. And
enjoy
that
the
was a cool moment.
enjoy the season. Hey, on a random side note before we close out, do you have a hotel chain that you just absolutely love?
I don't travel as much as you do.
Dude, so I am a sucker for a Courtyard Marriott or a Fairfield Inn. I am a sucker. If you said to me, hey, do you want to stay at the Ritz-Carlton or Courtyard Marriott? I would tell you I would prefer to stay at the Courtyard Marriott
What
because,
is it?
dude, I'm telling you. So every week for about maybe 3 years, I taught seminars for CrossFit, and they always put us at Courtyard Marriott. It was just like always the thing. And so I'm comfortable at the gym. They have like a crappy but available breakfast in the morning. I know the room is going to be clean. I know the hotel is always situated the same way. It's always like 4 stories, and some of them even have a little pool in them. And someone listening is going to be like, dude, I relate to what Jason's saying. So when you stay at a hotel over and over and over again, it just becomes second nature. So when Ashley wants to go stay at wherever, I tell her like, dude, first off, they're way more affordable. But secondly, I love knowing that I could go downstairs right now and I could get a shitty cup of coffee and a sausage thing that's absolutely terrible, but I love the fact that I know I could go get it right now. So that's my
Dude,
go-to. Courtyard Marriott. Shout out to them.
there's something about consistency. Just
Yeah.
it's what you know. I had a question as you were talking about Caden and travel ball and this whole idea of like initiations. What what would you be comfortable with when it comes to like, once he's in maybe not high school, but I think more like if you were to play college, the line between like what is like freshman initiation and like borderline hazing, because that's something that I think kind of serves this purpose, but obviously you can go to an extreme, right? Like I remember on the swim team, when the freshmen on the team, they would carry all the bags, they would carry the cooler, like they would be responsible for other stuff. And if you were a senior, you didn't have to do any of that. And I think that that was like maybe the extreme to which like we did that. But I know that in, collegiate sports and culture, there's so much about like what the freshmen have to do and they just have to pay your bills. Sometimes it does go a little bit overboard. And I think that just because of where we are now culturally, there's a lot of stuff that maybe you can get away with, 10, 20 years ago that you can't get away with now. Where do you kind of fall on, is that kind of like this initiation that we're talking about here that's important for a freshman to kind of like pay his dues and know where he kind of stands on the pecking order? Is it unnecessary? I don't know, like where do you land on that?
Well, I think there's different types of hazing we're talking about. Like, so one would be like a frat, right? So like frat hazing would be like typically the way I would look at it is like a bunch of alcohol in like that type of hazing. Then there's like the sports hazing, which is like carry the seniors stuff, do that kind of stuff. I think a lot of it would have to be like depending on the situation, but I think there's nothing wrong with like the seniors like putting the freshmen in their place and like creating an environment where like, dude, you got to earn your stripes, right? You got to earn this position, right? And because all that does is just inspire these younger boys to be like, dude, like F you, like you can't do that to me. I'm gonna show you how great I could be, right? I'm gonna show you, at least that's the way I look at it, you know? Um, I think there's something special about that, right? Where like you you want the older boys to kind of like, and obviously we're talking about there's so many levels of this, but like at the end of the day, you want them to kind of push the younger generations to be better. And if a way of them doing that is like, dude, you're gonna carry my bag until you score 10 goals or whatever it is, like then I think that's all part of the process, you know, and like and legacy,
Yeah, I
you
tend
know?
to agree. I mean, obviously, if it ever puts anyone in harm's way, if it's ever like all those things, obviously, I feel like you always have to like, give the
Got it.
disclaimer anyway. Obviously, I would be completely against that. But I agree with you. I think that some of this stuff does serve this purpose of like, I don't know, like a formal initiation, but it is kind of like you have to do the hard things before you can kind of like, put your feet up and be the senior on the team. Or just, the going back to what I was talking about in the book, or, the king or someone that's already gone through it. You kind of have to earn your dues. And I think all these little worlds, youth sports being one of them, like I think that's one of the lessons that could be learned in maybe not youth sports as much. I think they're very young at that point and you're not kind of in this stage, but like collegiate sports specifically, I think is a good place for those lessons to be learned with stuff like that, as long as it's not out of hand. So I agree.
Yeah, man, and we'll stay tuned. I mean, I just want to watch these young boys, level up, and dude, we're a month away from Ava and water polo tryouts, a month away, and it's a no cut sport, so she's making the team if she wants to be on the team. But if she decides to play water polo, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be so excited, dude. Oh, I'm gonna be so excited. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into, but I'm so excited. I hope she does it. We'll see.
That's fun, man. That's
And
fun. I always wish we had water polo at my school, but we didn't have a deep enough pool. But we would play like a bastardized version of water polo in this off season, which was a really good idea by my swim coach because it was a game, but he would keep everyone in like decent shape because, dude, water polo is super hard.
oh, dude, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. But we got what do we have coming up? We got all right. So right now, well, when this episode releases, we have some new cycles coming up in the near future. But nonetheless, look, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, and if you haven't checked out the Train Hard app, make sure to do so. We have the Train Hard Daily, which is a program that I use on a regular basis. You have Flex, which is a program that Gabe uses on a regular basis, which I'm also using right now for the Gilroy High School wrestling team. That's been very well received. I think what I've came to the conclusion of is like Flex is a phenomenal linear progression program for someone who wants structure, a little bit more of a bodybuilding focus, and to put on some strength. It's phenomenal. And it has good variety, especially your previous phase. There's a lot of variety, and so for any guy listening, like it gives you a lot of exposure to a variety of different movements, which I think is super important. And then you have the TH Daily, which is just your general like solid. We'll do fast one day, we'll do long one day, we'll do this one day, and they serve different purposes. And so go check out the Train Hard app and find the appropriate program for you. You can take our quiz and it'll match you up with the perfect program. And we have another program coming up in the near future. MDV is going to be writing up. It's a no NT4BS, right? I got it right. Dude, I've had a really hard time saying that. It's no time for bullshit. I've had a really hard time saying it. NT4BS, which is going to be, it's a 5-day week program, but it's really going to be designed to be structured in a way that you could hit it 3 days a week. And it's going to be more minimal equipment, really inspired by the way he likes to train. And what we're learning as I get older is that, there's no one way to train. All that matters is you find a program that inspires you, something that keeps you consistent, and that allows you to see results. And I'm confident across all of our programs, all of them will do that for you. So make sure to check them out.
On that note, did Hiller get back to you about getting on the podcast?
Well, he didn't message me. I could message him. I just think the reason why I want to talk to Hiller is because I feel strongly that many of his audience can't see the forest through the trees. Like
100%.
I just want to have a conversation about like, dude, of course there's nuance to all this stuff. Of course range of motion matters. But we need you're so tunnel vision on that you're missing the bigger picture. And training age plays such a major factor here. Like I've been training basically every day for over 20 years. And if I feel like on this given day, this particular squat in this particular position allows me to hit the stimulus I'm looking for, I'm going to do it. And I think that there needs to be more open-minded to this whole range of motion thing. Unless you're competing, then there is no negotiation. That's the standard. And that's what's important.
Yeah. I don't think you were on the podcast when we talked about this with MDV and Dennis. It was one of the home team episodes, but I don't think he believes there's anything wrong with it. I really don't. I think it's just like, there's an opportunity to, it's a shtick, but I don't think I would like to believe that he's like a smart enough dude and, entrenched enough in training that he 100% is just like, dude, Jay's working hard and it's fine. I think it's much more of a shtick. But to your point, I think that the unfortunate part is the audience kind of like piling on and really believing that there's something less to a workout done without like, perfect standards and someone just consistently going out and getting after it. Like that is so much more important. Like 95, no, not even 95, 98% is you're going out every day, moving, doing something hard. Like maybe half of 1% is, like what the movement looks like, as long as you're doing everything safely and as long as you're doing it with the intention of whatever the stimulus is. And I can't see him disagreeing with that. I think it's more of just a shtick. But anyway.
Let's have a conversation about it. It's not something to go back and forth on Instagram. It's a long form conversation where I explain how I've evolved over the years, right? And I think honestly, coaching the men's club has really opened my eyes to this, because it's like these guys, they're getting great results. Like, and yeah, look, does range of motion matter? Should you be trying to hit a specific stimulus, a specific range? Yes. If you miss it by an inch, is it the end of the world? No. Like, it's not. And if you're going to be bashing people for it, just doesn't make sense unless they're in competition. If they're in competition, that's different, because then there's money and fame and whatever else in life. But if you're just trying to inspire people to train hard and get after it, I don't see why range of motion really matters. I don't. That's my position. But I'm excited to have him. I'll hit him up, actually. I didn't know if we were going to be on his show or whatever, but I'll hit him up.
Yeah, I'm curious. I saw that exchange and I was wondering if he was in if he was going to message you back. But yeah, hopefully it happens.
Ooh. All right, everybody. Well, hey, wish you, your family all the best. I hope you guys are having a great 4th of July weekend, and see you guys again next week for another great episode.
Let's go.